words. Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Saturday, the 12th of November, 2022. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
My arms ache from clearly fighting all those words.
And Robert Kemp.
Throwing dim punches.
I mean, that would make more sense than what actually happened.
Okay, there's a story,
It
Bruin.
would make more sense that you were fighting literal words.
Yes,
like,
I mean, that actually
really
would
happened.
make more sense. Because what actually happened was I had a long bath and then my arms ached for a day and a half.
What?
And I was like, what? Why?
From the bath?
Yeah.
Were they like dehydrated and like, what do you call it? Like desiccated? And you like
Desiccated arms.
I don't really get pruny any longer. I don't know why.
Huh. You were in there for so long you atrophied. Like,
I don't know why it was the arms specifically. It was like,
Yeah.
I mean, legs maybe would make even more sense than that.
huh. I can't
Yeah,
remember
it
the
was
last time I
that
had a
it, like,
bath. Like,
The bath was like, your arms were floating up in the bath and then your muscles were like, well, I don't not need it anymore.
That's like the opposite of what should have happened. Because I mean, the problem with arm bath obviously is I'm tall and I'm therefore I'm constantly having to shift my legs positions.
Sure, yeah.
Between like fully sitting up and laying back.
Yeah. So is it like, are you resting on your shoulders weirdly on the back
Not
part
really.
of the bath, or are your shoulders out of the bath?
Well,
like,
that depends which one of those two positions.
yeah,
I'm in.
yeah. Well, you've slinked
But also
in.
not really. It's not like I'm putting excessive pressure onto my back or anything.
Hmm.
And it's never happened before. It's just this one time my arms were just like, fuck this, for no apparent reason.
I'm out.
So hopefully that won't happen again.
Have they recovered then, your achy arms?
More
Or
or
are you
less.
still permanently ached?
I mean, now it's just like, now it's bleeding into like RSI, like my normal arm veins.
Yeah.
You'd think, a nice long soak in the
Yeah,
bath
would
would
help-
be good
it
for
would
that
help
sort
with
of
that.
thing.
Rather
Yeah.
than causing it.
I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
it's a.
aggravating it.
I mean, I wonder if you fall into the sort of the argument of like, is an ice bath or a hot bath better for aching arms or something like that? Like, because
Right,
there's
yeah.
those two schools of thought that
Who takes an ice bath? Like
Nobody.
athletes and stuff. but-
athletes do. Yeah,
yeah, but not. I don't know.
normal people. Oh, I suppose that was
No.
was it an Amazon or a Google ad or something like for the. It might be a Google ad where it's like for your routine or something, and the ad starts with some guy like with a timer next to him getting out of an ice bath, and it's like, oh, okay, that's your routine, is it, you madman?
The only coldness I will accept is very gradually reducing the temperature of the shower until you're
shower.
like leaving the shower.
Hmm.
Although
Yeah,
our like electric shower doesn't go nearly low enough. I like
Oh,
I
really?
can
Really?
withstand way colder than this,
Yeah.
but it's still kind of warm.
I mean, it's a constant routine between Gnome and I that it's like after Gnome's been in the shower, I turn it down, and after I've been in the shower, Gnome turns it right up. So
Turns it back up.
it's like, oh, I
But
just
do you
found
go
the
for
sweet
the-
spot.
The actual cold shower of like the gradual, the
no.
incremented down to zero, or almost zero.
I mean,
No,
I
I mean, I
increment
just-
it down as far as zero goes on this shower,
Yeah.
which isn't zero.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to just start at a comfortable, fairly cold. Not fairly cold, but
Right.
I guess skin temp. I guess.
I mean, I would assume there must be real fancy showers that do that for you, right? Where you could just be like,
don't
here's
know.
the start temperature, here's the end temperature, here's how long I
Well,
want it to
increment
take
for
to get
me.
between them.
You know what? I don't know if the
Maybe.
tech broed shower is really a thing.
No problem.
Yeah, because you get the tech broad like thermostat and everything, all the
Yeah.
other things in the house. That's clearly a gap in the market. For
What, are they going to
tech
use like an
broad
IR
shower.
camera to try and watch your body temp and then like
No.
match the?
You
I
just
suppose the problem
set
is
start and
like
end.
they can't. How they need an interface that works when your hands wet.
I mean,
you can't
regular
just have a
ass-
touch screen on there.
Yeah, but regular ass buttons.
or regular ass dials like they already have.
Yeah.
just for
Yeah, I know,
everything.
but then it's not. You're not going to be able to sell it as like a.
No,
it's
you
easy.
need a LED display.
You could put an LED
Yeah,
display
you need a crazy
behind a
display.
dial, like a Nest. Or
Right,
whatever.
yeah,
it
that
needs
would
to
be the trick,
waterproof,
yeah.
though. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, it can be done.
I think that would be cool, though, as it were.
Yes.
At least that'd be one of the settings.
It'd be appropriately cool.
I found I was listening to the Adam Buxton podcast, and he said the trick for getting into the cold shower is to make stupid monkey noises, and I found that does work. That definitely helps as you're reducing the temperature.
So, all right, why would you get in? What is the What is the thing about getting into a cold shower then? Like, it's like why do you do that? Is it just to wake you
getting
up?
directly into a cold shower? Oh well, I was doing it after like a run or something. I don't normally do it. I think it does wake you up, but it also like I don't know. It's like vasoconstriction. It's like good for stress, I think, and stuff. Like I think it's supposed to be like good to lower your temperature, and also what's the vasoconstriction? It's like the blood goes away from your
from the outside,
the surface.
from the surface.
Exactly.
It goes deep.
I think it has a number of like benefits and stuff. But I'm just doing that because like my normal shower would be when I'm actually, trying to get clean and stuff. I keep it fairly warm or whatever. But then after a run or something, I'm like, just want to reduce the temperature down so that because I've been all sweaty and stuff, I just want to get the sweat off, reduce the temperature down, and then be done in like basically 5 minutes.
Yeah, to a point. But I make it cold in that case, but not like monkey cold.
Yeah,
as you say.
Monkey cold is quite fun. I don't know. It's pretty weird.
I do it like when Noam and I go to a spa day or something like that. I'll do it there because it's like it's got to be done at least once. You got to jump into that shower, press the unlabeled button, and see what happens.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be doing it in the winter, to be honest. I think there's got to be a summer thing, right? The cold shower.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, there was that one spa we went to which literally just had a bucket on a rope that, it would automatically fill up with water, and then you pulled the rope and it'd be like, hey, bucket time.
Right. Nice.
Again, you do that like once.
For the ice bucket challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like at Centre Parks where they have like a there's always a cold plunge pool. Like right next to the hot tubs, pretty much, or like the bubble area. Like it's not really a hot tub, I suppose, but like the bubbly bit of pool, they would normally have a plunge pool, so you could just jump right in it. And it's like, this is 3 degrees or something ridiculous, and it's like, oh god.
I mean, just regular swimming pools are cold enough in a lot of cases.
Sometimes, yeah, but they're sort of only cold on they're sort of like the right temperature that you adapt, right?
Well, for actually swimming, yes.
Yeah.
For not just sitting there.
They're okay if it's just sitting. I mean, I'm a bit weird and I get on with a cold generally, but I can quite easily just
not that way.
Sit in a bubbly pool.
Yeah.
A bubbly pool.
A bubbly pool.
A bubbly pool.
Bubbly pool.
It's my favourite seaside town.
Is that our Tech Pro shower brand?
Bubbly pool.
A bubbly pool.
A bubbly pool.
Rough fucker.
It'd be wet fucker, wouldn't it? Or something like
Ew.
Spray fucker.
I mean, I say eel, but that's much healthier than dry fucker, isn't it? Anyway, sorry.
That's the hairdryer brand.
We're 13 years into this podcast, and that joke is still good.
How many years in when we came up with that joke?
I'm pretty sure it was pretty early, like fairly early.
Was it?
Yeah, like maybe only a couple, something like that.
And I say came up with in the most loose sense that it's basically a joke we stole from Jack Bomb.
Is it? Oh, I can't remember.
I mean, for me, like if it's from the podcast area, it's a relatively new joke for us.
For us, yeah, I guess. One of my faves. Hey,
right, I think. Go on.
I finished that Lord of the Rings show, by the way.
I only watched like 3. I stopped completely.
Which is what it does get better.
Does it?
I'm gonna say
just so bored.
Yeah, it is still super slow until for like 5 episodes, and then like in episode 6 suddenly, episode 6 is basically an episode entirely of action. So like
right, shit happens.
Yeah, it's suddenly very different, and then 7's less so. I forget how many there are. I think there's 8. 7 less so, but still quite interesting. And admittedly, the last episode slows it right down, but that's where, the name of the show suddenly becomes important.
Where they have to make up some weird bullshit to link it back into the actual lore.
Yeah, and there's a few.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a few by that point fairly obvious revelations and stuff because I kind of had it already pegged. But I'm not a Lord of the Rings lore laurist.
No,
so I wasn't.
That might actually impede you.
Yeah,
I think if
probably.
you actually know the law, it might make it worse.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't have had the intrigue, I suppose, but which I did at that point. It was like, I think I enjoyed it more towards the end than I did at the start. I think it found its way a little bit.
Okay, I don't know if I can be bothered to go back to it. Oh well, I don't know. Anyway, maybe.
In other TV news, I just wanted to bring that up because obviously you're the Lord of the Rings guy, and
I am the Lord of the Rings guy, but I just couldn't get on with the TV show. But maybe I'll give it another try.
It's interesting.
And
they very much
the Star Wars thing.
I very much hope they don't stop now. That's what I mean, because it's like oh, they finally got to the start of the story. it's
I
kind of one
don't think
of those.
They will. I think they'll make at least one more season because I think it's all agreed and stuff. But I don't know. It depends because presumably it hasn't done as well as they hoped. I mean, but they probably hoped it would do insanely well, and it clearly hasn't. But I'm sure it's done fine. But they're really pushing it. Amazon, like every single box you get from Amazon has fucking Lord of the Rings all over the tape, all over it.
I can't remember what I was looking at the other day, but I saw like a Lord of the. Oh yeah, it was in the Quest menu. I was using my VR, the Quest 2, and in the menu I was just like, oh, it's reset my my hub, I suppose, to the default. Let me put it back to what I was. But then I noticed, like in the list of like environments you can now pick, there is a Lord of the Rings of Power environment that I think is like the dwarf mountain, like inside the dwarf mountain. I should probably look at that, see if it's any good. So yeah, it's their marketing has made it into a Quest environment. I think that's the only branded one in there as well, which just makes it extra strange. It's like
extreme marketing. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, are you watching that Star Wars show? I don't think anyone is.
No, I still don't have Disney Plus at the moment.
Oh, you don't have Disney Plus. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. So it's really weird, Andor. I mean, it's genuinely good, but also the tone is very strange for Star Wars. Like it's not. It's much bleaker than. I don't know. It's much bleaker than any Star Wars.
It's just the gritty edgelord realism that everyone's been looking for.
It's super edgelordy. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, that's fine, but it almost could be in a different. Yeah, it could be in a different universe, like Battlestar Galactica style or whatever. Like,
they could have thrown any sci-fi at it, and it would have been fine.
Well, I don't know. It's like they're deliberately not leaning into. Yeah, totally. Mass Effect. Like it could have been its own universe without too much trouble, but they're just picking bits of Star Wars that make sense for their like gritty story, like the Empire being fascists, basically. But then that's really low key in the original Star Wars. It's just It's not about politics. It's just a like they're the evil you needed an evil empire. But this is like, it's full on like Nazi Germany or whatever, and like the mechanics of it and the institutions and everything, and then what it takes to, to form a rebellion against that. It's like it's not just the plucky rebels with like the kid, the farm boy.
Well, yeah, because I guess the rebels
holy shit.
The rebels are kind of always already formed in the stories, right?
Yeah, so this is them forming or whatever, but it's like super. But it is genuinely like pretty good. But it's like literally the last episode is Star Wars, and the last episode I watched had euthanasia in it, basically.
Wow,
like it's like full on. But some of the acting in it is like pretty like better than I've ever seen in anything Star Wars. That's for sure. It's like it's got Stellan Skarsgård and Andy Serkis in the last arc.
Yeah, I've heard he's real good in this.
He's good in it. Like it's.
In fairness, when is he not good in stuff? But
Well, that's true. But I mean, he's technically the bad guy in the. He's Snoke, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah. But but yeah, it's real weird. Like I definitely recommend watching it, but it almost doesn't like, because I was thinking like, is this like the Deep Space Nine of Star Wars? Like, but it's how Deep Space Nine was like the grittier, murkier Star Trek.
I mean, kinda.
It wasn't like
by whatever Star Trek's level of murk really is.
In some episodes. when they're not doing normal Star Trek.
Exactly.
Bullshit.
Like for Star Trek, by Star Trek standards, it's the gritty, murky one. But you'd think, and I was wondering, like, is Andor like the gritty, murky? But it's way beyond. Like, it's like that, but like Deep Space Nine is not that gritty in comparison to normal Star Trek.
So
it's not Battlestar. Let's put it that way.
I don't know if anyone was clamoring for that, but I'm in my head. This is like, is this when Nintendo revealed Twilight Princess and everyone was like, this is the Zelda I really want, and then it was just a normal Zelda game.
Yeah, it's strange.
That sort of like, is it trying to appeal to those people that always want a grim dark version of their favorite franchise?
So.
But that's what the extended universe was, right, in Star Wars.
Yeah, but the extended universe had that insane thing where, like, there's an evil alien civilization is coming to attack us after all that. No, that's really dumb. That's not Star Warsy. They shouldn't have done that. That's really stupid. But then it didn't matter because it was just a bunch of books that no one,
But it was much darker than regular Star Wars stories.
Yeah. I'm just sort of, because you can go like dark in like a young adult way in a really bad way, and I feel like Andor's doing it in a reasonably good way. It's just like very strange tone for Star Wars. But yeah, I'd watch it for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if I'd like not tell Gnome some of that stuff if I were going to watch it.
It's got some good people in it. It's quite engaging, and it's quite well shot. I don't know, it's quite good. Which is not what I expected, because I didn't like Rogue One, and this is like the
I did
kind of the prequel to Rogue One. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, interesting.
No, that's cool. Yeah, we probably will get our Disney Plus back, but I'm going to try and find a way of. We've probably got multiple ways in which we can get it slightly cheaper or attached to something else, like my Sky subscription is up, right? So it's time to have a look at what's going on with that, because boy, Sky is expensive.
Yeah, but
we do use it a lot, and so
F1 obviously.
Well, and that, and the fact that I don't have to, I'm still eligible to get the deal where I don't pay for Sky F1, which is great. They honor that deal still that I got when I first signed up.
That's good.
But man, I tried to figure it. Sky, right? They're kind of the worst at this, because obviously they're super expensive, and they also have lots of tiers and add-ons and things that you can add to your package and be like, I want this bit, I want this bit, I want kids, I want music, I want cinema, I want sports. I didn't realize I had sports. I'd somehow I get that for free as well. That's a thing I didn't know I had.
I think you did know that at one point.
Yeah, maybe
I remember us looking through it and being like, what weird bullshit sports do we look?
Yeah, why have I got this? Well, I think some of the channels, the non-premium channels, are everyone gets, right? Maybe ESPN 4 or something ridiculous, or Eurosport. Or maybe they've tied those up. There was some weird, obscure stuff. I think there was always there, but. Yeah, so I get all that, and it's okay, what if I wanted to actually change my package and perhaps turn stuff off that I don't need, and can I save money in some ways and stuff like that? Their website is rubbish for actually being able to modify what you have. If I wanted to turn anything off, you cannot do that on renewal.
Well, obviously,
and it's you have to call them. And yeah, of course they don't, but it's they're all their all of the blurb that you get leading to that point says, yeah, you could just go to the website, manage it from there, and you get to the website, and it's you can't manage it from there. It's nonsense.
I mean, it's the technically legally true where it's manage it from the website, because the website tells you what the phone number is.
Yeah, I guess. But then they make it even more awkward in the upgrades I might actually consider, the 4K upgrade, for instance, which I don't have. And as it turns out, probably wouldn't cost a whole bunch more than what I have, maybe a couple of pounds, literally, to upgrade to 4K. 4K F1, that'd be good. Probably no different, but whatever. I can't. The website doesn't offer me any way to do that, and it's well, you clearly offer it. So what do I need to actually do? I'm gonna have to call someone, aren't I? It's frustrating. But Sky are also doing that weird streamy box now as well. They have
Sky over IP.
Yeah, they have a non-satellite option, which
my brother told me about that because he's been working for Sky.
But I'm in two minds about that, because it's like, obviously watching anything through that is going to impact your broadband if you're doing that. If you're not on ridiculous speed broadband, which we can't get the best of the best here. So it's like, do I want to do that? I suppose I already have Disney Plus and Netflix, and I've never really noticed it being a problem. So maybe putting Sky in Sky streaming instead of a Sky satellite is not a terrible idea. But I can't. The Sky website knows I'm a user of it, so I can't actually see what any of that stuff is. Like, it's frustrating.
Maybe you can ask my brother how to get around that, because he made that website, I think. Oh no, no. He works on the broadband deals,
right?
part,
yeah, which I did.
There are certain things where, criteria that hide certain options from you.
It's nightmarish in that, and it's like, I know what I'm looking for, and I know it must be here, but the website just refuses to show me it. Because of its knowledge of me, I guess, and it's like, frustrating.
Hello, my name is Guy Incognito mode.
Gusto.
Oh, I saw a Twitter meme on that basis, of course, because Guy Incognito had a verified checkmark.
Amazing, of course. Are we getting into news, though? Is it Twitter time?
Yeah, is it news time? Right. I mean, this is nominally about video games, but I mean, do we want to talk about Twitter? Because it's hilarious.
And we've talked about it for the last several weeks.
But as I said last time, it's like it's still kind of in the wait and see what actually happens mode, because they keep trying to do things and they're not doing things. Although some of the things that have stuck, things. I mean, I guess firing everyone has stuck.
Yeah, they fired everyone or laid off thing. I don't know, a lot of people.
I need some education here. Like, who got fired? And because it sounded like there was a lot of them, right? Like a lot of
it's
people.
It's a big whale. It's not a very big company, really, on the scale of like Facebook or Amazon.
Well, that was my question. It's like a little bit of. There's a bit in my head that can't quite understand. I can't remember the actual number of people, but like I want to say it was like hundreds, right, or maybe even 1,000 or something like that. It was a ridiculously large number.
Yeah,
of people.
I think it was at least 1,500 people. I think.
Right, yeah, that's a huge number, and and a bit in my head is like, how does it take that many people to run Twitter? I actually don't understand how it requires that many people.
Yeah, I mean,
well, I mean, they are assuming that like everything's not run by algorithms.
Well, maybe maybe it isn't. Maybe that's the problem. Like, maybe
I think a lot of the moderation stuff does have to be manual. I mean, obviously, it's algorithm driven, but I think their queue of things to look at is algorithm driven.
Yeah, to actually approve
human beings to
and verify that. Oh no, this is right. This is a false positive.
I think that's a big part, and then there's building and incrementing on the platform. I imagine most of the software engineering is to do with scale and not to do with like feature development.
Sure,
you know what I mean.
And presumably security. I mean, that's got to be a huge
security.
deal.
Yeah, but like, can you imagine how many records that they're working with in a distributed way? Like, and I heard that like that let's see if I can find it.
Wasn't like a big part of it, like the layoffs as well, like their ethics team or something? Like,
they laid off the whole ethics team. In fell swoop. Yeah,
which presumably must have been this moderator group, I guess, or I don't know. There's just something in my head that's like, okay, I don't want to defend Elon too much in this. This is not what I'm doing here. But there's just a bit in my head that's like, maybe there was fat to trim. But maybe he's gone about it in the wrong way.
Well, it's because he didn't trim fat; he removed it entirely.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't leave any fat left at all.
just bone.
Yeah,
he turned it into he turned a steak into a vegan steak.
But bones aren't vegan either. No, that metaphor doesn't quite succeed.
We got rid of the flavour. You got rid of the bit you actually want.
What would you make a vegan bone out of?
Like a vegan bone? Yeah, probably. Yeah, ceramic would work. You don't want to bite into that either.
No.
Is that got to be a key part of this? Like, if it's got to represent bone in food, it's got to be equally unpleasant if you find it.
Yeah. That's how you really trick people into thinking they're eating meat, by leaving bits of bone in it.
It's got to be. It's always like a hard silica or something, because it's got to have that little bit of weird
Well, that's why I was saying
squeezed
ceramic,
it,
because I'm talking like unglazed ceramic, obviously.
Unglazed. That's even worse, I think.
That's quite bone-like, I would say.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I haven't eaten many bones, really.
You don't go about trying to eat a bone,
No.
right? It just sort of happens. Like, it's just in original recipe KFC, right? You just find you're just gonna find one.
I get the feeling that probably your teeth hitting ceramic is going to not feel like hitting bone.
That's going to be far more jarring. I'm sure.
It's much more scrapey.
Scrapey. Oh, that is
Yeah, exactly. As soon as I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work. That's not what chewing off a bone feels like.
That's giving me that reaction. Like, it's not happening to me, but I'm feeling it.
Scraping your teeth against a chalkboard.
I swear I'm getting more sensitive to, like, suggested experiences, if that makes sense. Like, if someone starts talking about something gross, I mean, this has been growing for years, in fairness with me, but, like, if someone starts talking about something gross that actually does, like, disgust me in some way, I kind of start getting vomity reactions. Like, that can just happen now from the suggestion, not the actual thing, and that's kind of new.
Kind of, I guess.
For me, anyway.
Or maybe it's just because you used to not be resistant to it, like, physically.
Yeah.
So you experience that, so that inherently leads towards it becoming a suggestion thing.
Yeah, like. Okay, so this week in particular, for an example, right? This week we had a bit of a bad experience with the coffee.
Don't talk about it on the podcast, whatever it is that caused this reaction.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, it's not that bad. No, it really isn't that bad. I had a bad reaction to the coffee machine.
Okay.
So we cleaned it out and we made a coffee one morning, and it clearly wasn't
clean,
quite right. Yeah, because it. After like my milk didn't settle in my coffee right, if that makes sense. Like, it looked wrong, but Noam had a bit before she left, and she was like, "Seems all right." So I drank half of it, threw up later. Like, clearly wasn't good, and like that. Now there's a sort of bit of me that's like, when I'm thinking about coffee, even though I literally just drank a coffee, though, there's a bit of me that actually, like, sometimes when I just think about coffee, I start to get a little queasy. Like,
helpful way to stop your coffee habit. Just puke sometimes.
Just lace it. Like, if I mean, I'm not saying you could stop my pizza habit, but if you like accidentally laced some poo on some pizza or something.
You've thrown up from just eating regular pizza before, and that hasn't stopped you.
I'm pretty sure that's my dairy thing rather than anything else. But it doesn't like the idea of pizza doesn't disgust me. Like I don't know why. Maybe there's just something about
what about pineapple?
Yeah, okay, that does.
What about anchovies?
No,
you're more accepting of anchovies than pineapple.
I've been all right with anchovies in the past, but yeah, pineapple on a pizza. I mean, pineapple on a pizza doesn't make me vomit. It's just a poor decision.
No, I wasn't saying it would. But
anyway, gut check for the week.
I mean, speaking of, I guess, hopefully not related to Rob throwing up, but at the start of this week, I wasn't feeling good either, which I'm fairly sure, because I was trying to determine, was it the KFC that I ate while I was here? I was like, probably not. But it might have been, I think it might
I mean, we did eat a lot, in fairness.
If you didn't suffer from it, then it probably wasn't bad.
I suffered a little.
Okay, not as much as that sounds like less than what I had then.
Yeah,
but what I think my one was I think I might actually be, like, allergic to shrimp.
Oh, okay,
for real. Because, like, previously, so there's one shrimp dish that we had occasionally, and previously I just started not liking it, and then I started getting, like, I was calling it heartburn, but I don't think it really was heartburn. It was like some kind of indigestion, but it felt vaguely like heartburn.
You still had that sort of, like, acid refluxy sort of feeling up your...
but not, like, super much. And I was like, well, I guess it's something in this, and so we were going to play the shrimp, because obviously a shrimp is the one thing that people tend to get allergic to.
Sure. I mean, Noam suspected that for pretty much her entire life until she met me, and I was like, and then we sort of disproved it eventually.
But then this time it was like, just like, the shrimps had been cooked entirely separately from the rest of it, and I was just eating the rest of it, and that still caused problems. I was like, oh, okay, so maybe we're at the stage where it's just like now it's cross-contamination of like a spoon that was used in both of them and transferred the shrimp across.
Yeah, possible.
So
is
now,
is it
alternatively,
like a bloaty pain? Because I used to get that with chili for a bit.
Not really.
And it's...
But like, so then now I'm just like, either I'm becoming more sensitive to shrimp, or it's just one of the other ingredients in the other half of it, and we haven't determined what it actually is yet.
Huh.
So maybe I'll just stop eating any of that whole dish from now on.
I mean,
just to be safe.
Figuring out food complaints is actually pretty tricky.
Yeah,
because it's like there are some weeks, I have my theories about dairy right with me, and I do think I've been better since I stopped having so much of it.
Yeah,
and there are some weeks where we have pizza, as we do, and I'm a little bit bad the next day.
The sacrifices we make.
Yeah, absolutely. for the cheese I love, and but then there are other times where I'm perfectly fine, like no trouble at all, and I cannot. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of correlation sometimes, and it's tricky.
And then it's like, what toppings did you have?
Yeah,
getting into that.
I mean, we're pretty standard, aren't we?
Yeah, usually
with our pickings. Or is it like who served you? Like what was on their gloves?
Well, I mean, yes, obviously that's the actual problem with fast food. Just like the KFC, you don't know what the shit's going on. You don't know what shit's going on.
I'd rather I didn't.
Anyway, what the fuck were we talking about?
Twitter,
I guess.
Speaking of what the shit's going on. Twitter layoffs, yeah. I mean, I found a tweet. I don't know if it's true, but they're saying that someone on the inside is saying that the service for the users, which is called Gizmo Duck, is down to 2 engineers, and the service for the tweets called Tweety Pie is down to 1 engineer. So can't wait for that to break.
I mean, 1 seems like a
idea. I don't know if that's fully true. That doesn't seem sensible, but it doesn't sound good anyway, regardless.
Well, if they got rid of 1,500 people and they said that was about half the company, they've still got 1,500 people, right? I imagine there's more than 1 engineer that actually manages tweeting a tweet.
You'd think so.
But then how many engineers does it really take to write a tweet service?
Well, how many engineers does it take to maintain it if you're not changing anything?
Yeah, like the tweet service part of it, maybe that's actually quite simple, right? And it's, as you said before, it's all the underlying scale and the databasing and
yeah, exactly. It's all the scale of it, right?
And the servers and the DevOps and the
exactly. Anyway,
but
then the drama on the service itself is good. I don't know.
Verified checks.
I never that never made any sense to me. What even was that? How was that ever going to work?
I think it's the same sort of problem that plagues like video games, right? And Counter-Strike cheats.
It's the idea that making people pay for something will stop trolling, and it doesn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, in fact, it's massively increased trolling because people are paying $8 to make stupid jokes.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, that was the thing. Like, CS was one of the early examples that introduced this, right? Where they like even after they had gone free to play in CS:GO, you still had to pay or have bought some stuff from the store, in order to get a mark against your account. Basically, to say, okay, you're a legit user because you've bought stuff,
right?
For this account, and then that supposedly would affect the matchmaking, and that you were more likely to get matched with other players with the checks and less likely to get matched against unverified accounts or stuff like that in an attempt to make the games feel normal. Nonsense. I mean, you still get cheaters all over the place in these things. It's like it hasn't worked at all. It's people do it. People cheat because they find it fun. That's what they do. And if they pay, and why do we play games? To have fun, and we spend money to buy games to have fun. Like, it's no different. It's the exact same.
It's true.
It's the exact same path. So actually, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
No.
And I guess that's what's happening right now. People are paying Twitter to have fun with their stupid system while it lasts. Like,
I saw another post that I don't know if it is actually legit or makes sense, but they were saying that like the idea that like they'll let people pay $8 to make a stupid joke and then get banned, and then, hey, we've still got your $8. Whoever thought that never heard of credit card chargebacks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to cost Twitter money to do that.
I've always wondered, like, what the legitimacy of that whole process is, though, right? Like,
yeah,
if you literally bought something and you charge it back, like can you reject that? Surely you must be able to reject that as a company and just say, well, you bought the thing and you broke the terms of service. It's like we don't
weird,
have to pay
that. The way I understand chargebacks, and I don't know how it actually makes sense, but like if someone pays for your service with a credit card and then they cancel it and they get the money back from the credit card provider, but you have to pay a fee to them, like like not the whole amount, but you have to pay. Oh, hold on. No, you pay the money back plus a fee, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you pay back the $8 plus $1 handling fee to the credit card company.
Yeah,
so,
but how do you fight your case? Because I mean, we did run into when I worked with companies that that managed credit cards. It's like we did run into a spate of that at one point where it was in the attraction industry, and like so. People would go to an attraction, have their fun or whatever, and then immediately charge back it. And it's like, well, hang on, how do we how do we stop this? It's like, why are people doing this? I mean, I know why they're doing it because they're trying to get stuff for nothing, but it's like, I wasn't involved on that team, so I don't really know exactly how they would deal with that, but that's a bit of a problem, right? It would happen frequently enough in our tiny little company that this was a thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it affects small companies. Imagine how it would affect. Yeah,
I mean, one would have to assume that on the user end level, it probably fucks with your credit rating a lot if you keep trying to charge back stuff all the time.
Yeah, I bet it must. It must look like flag as suspicious after a while if you do it.
I guess,
loads.
But I mean, I suppose if you pay for Twitter Blue or whatever, and then you get banned or whatever, for doing something that isn't like. For just making a joke,
Yeah, I mean, in that instance,
you
sure.
You could say that you're not getting the goods that you paid for and legitimately charge them back, right?
Yeah, but then surely the counter argument is depending on the circumstance. Obviously,
yeah, I guess
it's like you broke the terms of service, and it's like that.
I guess
nullifies your ability to fight back.
Yeah, it's weird though, isn't it? Because it's
assuming
like
that's provable.
The onus is on the vendor, right?
Yeah.
Rather than that's the way it works.
It's designed for consumer protection, right? So you don't. So if you legitimately don't get the service you paid for, it's like you have a mechanism.
Exactly, and you're trusted by default, right? Until proven otherwise, which is nice. Rather than you have it all being on you to prove it, which I think is quite good. But yeah, anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if that really affects Twitter, but I mean that would make sense if it did.
No, it depends how much money we're really talking here, or how many people actually do that, right? Like it's.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a high probability they're just going to ride a wave of like, well, this.
Yeah,
we knew this stuff was going to get rough.
What absolute chaos. Anyway,
I
don't know how it's affecting like gaming stuff on Twitter. I don't know who's been Oh, Nintendo got impersonated, right, with Mario flipping the bird. I saw that with a blue check.
Great.
Well, that's one of them.
Mario hates kids.
Apparently. Anyway, I'm sure this saga will continue, but and unless Twitter is shut down by the time we talk next, but I think it will probably still be there.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I've seen a lot of talk about people trying to move to other services, like Mastodon seems to come up quite a lot as a
Mastodon is coming up a lot, and it's like, yeah, they're quite a good metal band.
Yes, I like myself some Mastodon.
I like some Mastodon, yeah.
Apparently, they're like joining processes, like is a strange ritual you have to go through. It's not simple as
right. Is it decentralized, right? Mastodon.
I think Mastodon itself isn't the decentralized part. It's like a splinter of a decentralized network. Like there's some underlying tech or something that there are a number of services that are built upon. and that's the decentralized part. I'm not certain, but I get the feeling that it's just a flavor of this other underlying thing that is, and this is the one that's gaining traction because of Twitter. So good for Mastodon, I guess.
Yeah,
I noticed their Mastodon CEO is quite combative or something like that. Someone tried to trap him in some kind of so you filter out like free speech and all that stuff. It's like is it trying to get him into a Nazi trap basically. It's like and he was like, "Nah, your bullshit doesn't work on me." And it's like, okay, fair enough. I'm not gonna get caught in these troll debates. I'm gonna do it with we're gonna do what we would set out to do.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Drama. What else is going on in the world of was the world of tech, but I guess video games.
More video gamey related, but a similar style dispute, I suppose. Let's talk about Mick Gordon, legendary composer of the Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal scores, and prior to that, Killer Instinct. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
And come on, the audio design in Killer Instinct is great. So fair play. Yeah, so it's come to light. Well, not recently, actually. This has been going on for a long time. So Doom Eternal had Doom Eternal soundtrack. I said from the start was not as, it didn't feel as good to me as what happened for Doom 2016. Doom 2016's score is fantastic, and the OST on Spotify is great in places. It's one of those things that you don't really listen to as songs per se, but it's a great soundtrack, if you see what I mean. There's some songy stuff on there, and it's pretty great. I never was super into Doom Eternal's soundtrack in comparison. It was fine, but it didn't hit the same heights. So the story comes, and there may be good reason for that, as it turns out. So the story has been going. It started with the effect that I'm trying to think. There was a version of Doom Eternal that you could order, like a collector's edition or something like that was going to come with the OST as a thing. And the OST part got delayed a huge amount. And when it eventually did come out, it was kind of lambasted as being a poor quality product. Just mixed poorly and not sounding great and just not gelling as well as the first one did. And it's like, okay, making an OST for a game like Doom is actually quite tricky because of the dynamic music system it uses. It's not, the songs aren't, the items of the soundtrack aren't designed as songs. They're designed as bits of song that transition between each other and things like that.
It's stems and stuff.
It's a pretty complicated process. So turning that into a soundtrack is an art in itself. And they did a good job with 2016 and did an awful job with Eternal. So 2 years ago now, it came out that in an open letter on Reddit from Marty Stratton, who's one of the managers in id Software and managers of the Doom project, basically throwing Mick Gordon under the bus, saying that, hey, all of the trouble that we had with the OST and all of the trouble with the score in general, it's all his fault, yada, yada, yada. There's a whole lot of blurb in there.
Bad blood, yeah.
Yeah, and Mick hadn't been publicly mentioned anything on that at this point. He'd stayed quiet at this point. So recently, as in this week, he has put out a very long and detailed description how Marty's statement is nonsense and how he has tried his best to sort out a situation that was a nightmare from the beginning, stating that he was effectively crunching the entire time he was working on Doom Eternal under unrealistic guidelines with no direction from the team really on what he should be done. He was basically contracted to make I think he said about 2 hours of music for the game in total. And bits, I suppose. It's apparently like the industry works in that you're contracted by the minutes you create, and therefore you get paid for the minutes. And yeah, because of the lack of direction, he was crunching a huge amount to do things, do re-edits. He'd he'd give stuff to the team, and they were like, "No, we're not going to use this, but can you tweak it in this particular?" He wasn't getting those crib notes, I suppose, to be like, "Okay, we actually need it to go like this," and it's partially because the game wasn't in the place where they knew what they wanted. Right? It was the direction wasn't quite there yet. And in fairness, if you play Doom Eternal, that might be true. Like, you probably get that feeling that they didn't nail the direction they wanted compared to 2016. So that made it tricky. What makes it worse in the first instance is that in the end, Doom Eternal actually contains over 5 hours of music. Way more than he was contracted to do. And it's like, okay, so how did that happen? And it happened because they used tracks that they rejected from his submissions.
Oh, man.
Which means he's only been paid for his original contractual obligation that they approved, and then they used the rejected material anyway. So he should be paid for that, right? They used his material anyway. So that's not right.
That's like those people, hiring engineers that get them to do like code for like a whole day and then and then reject them.
Yeah,
and then you can't just use the code.
No, you can't use the stuff. That wasn't part of the agreement, and there is evidence supporting that. Yada yada yada. That's not a good look. Especially after all the especially after the Marty statement, it's like it's not right. It's like you've clearly done a badness here. So on top of that, there's the OST debacle I started with. That was probably that basically was begun because Mick wasn't contracted to actually work on it until maybe a week or two before it was due to be released. And it's like, that's not enough time. And sure, it wasn't. The OST ended up being delayed and released at a later date. In the end, Mick put together, I think it was about 12 tracks, he said, for the OST. But when it released, unbeknownst to him, the OST ended up with like a full-on, like 40-odd tracks on it. Again, including rejected material that he obviously hadn't put together. An internal audio designer had crudely stitched together the bits of these other songs, so it didn't sit right, it didn't sound right, it wasn't well put together. In Mick's own words, it's like you can very clearly hear digital clipping and audio and like hard cuts and things like that just shouldn't be, and tempo changes even, that just really shouldn't be there. There are bits that are overlaid that are out of tempo and out of sync. To the point where, in Mick's own words, it's like they actually could have used the raw WYs file, which is like an audio system for game engines. It's like they could have just literally like output the raw file from that, and it would have sounded better. And obviously, he didn't get paid for any of that extra stuff being on the OST again. That was clearly his work, and worse than that, this other guy got credited as a co-creator of all this other stuff. Which, that's essentially artistry theft at that point. Like, you're not a composer of it. You've done a terrible edit job. Like,
well, I mean, that was technically creating it.
I guess, but like, that's not right. I feel that's a step too far.
Well,
so his reputation was being besmirched by like, id. They messed him around hugely. He's not being paid for the work he did. A pretty bad look. All in all,
let's hope nothing changes in about a week's time.
Yeah. So the main thing,
in a good way, changes at least.
And just to assuage like the other question mark around this is like, why did it take Mick 2 years to reply? And it's like, in his words, he was trying to do the right and professional thing by following it up behind the scenes, like not making a big public deal out of it, just being like, okay, this is bad. This is real bad. There's lawyers involved. Like, I'm getting legal advice on how to deal with this, and I want to get it solved. I want the Reddit post taken down. Well, there's a little sub-thread of this conversation where he actually spoke to the Reddit thread is obviously not owned by id Software. They were it was a fan site where this was posted, like a fan managed thing. And he actually spoke to the owners of that thing, and they got it taken down immediately. That Reddit thread disappeared, and it's like, great, I thought I'd done this. And it's like almost immediately after that, they put it back on presumably under pressure from Marty and Id, and have been able, so it's like clearly the fans kind of agreed with Mick on this.
Well, I don't know if they agreed necessarily. It was probably
or at least
just
the moderator of it did.
Or it's a big, legal thing where it's just like you can't just delete it for no reason,
but
and then the lawyers were actually involved in the background. So then, if there's any legal layer that could actually point towards the Reddit moderators for trying to delete the post,
I don't know. Like, it's just a post. If the moderators don't want it there, it doesn't have to be there. Like, it's for whatever reason.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's just a mess. I think, man, I have a lot of respect for id Software and the things they've done, like, for sure. And they made some real good decisions on 2016 Doom. Mick Gordon being one of them. And I don't know. I'm sure it's probably entirely this one guy, this Marty Stratton fella, that has just derailed the whole thing. It sounds like that. But now the problem is that ZeniMax or Bethesda or whatever, even under Microsoft control, they are defending their staff and not backing down from this. It sounds kind of mad.
Yeah, it's disappointing, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, reputational damage has been done to someone outside the company, but reputational damage has now been done to the company, like, through all this, through this revelation. I guess they were desperately trying to avoid it, like, so desperately trying to avoid it, but hey, they've just probably just made it a whole lot worse. I'd have a whole lot more respect for them if the story had been 2 years ago that Mick was mismanaged, but we've sorted it out. This wouldn't be a story.
Whole long, saga, basically, where it's all been drawn out. Yeah.
On a more positive note, do you remember, was it a couple of years ago, there was a trailer for a game called Atomic Heart that was like a shooter, but seemed Eurodance infused and had a really sort of like left field trailer in that respect. It like felt, I think it was Game Awards or something it was announced, actually. Something like that. Anyway, Mick Gordon's on that project, as it turns out. So he's found work.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay.
And it's like, that might explain its somewhat unique footprint, I guess. I don't know if he was working on it then, but that's reassuring. That game looked nuts. Anywho, that's that story. I've gone on about it long enough. I believe in you, Mick. I hope it's all true on your side, anyway.
I'm kind of erring on the side of Mick.
Definitely.
For sure. Did we want to wrap up the Bayonetta drama? Like, what happened with that? Did we talk about how that shook out? I think so.
Yeah, I think we did cover that last time.
Okay, that's fine then. We did, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah. So the original, I can't even remember it. Helen something, is it? The original voice actress. Not a nice person, or maybe questionable beliefs, or whatever you believe in. Probably shouldn't have gone about things in the way she did. Go look it up. It's yeah. She hasn't done herself any favors.
The boycott is off.
Yeah, boycott is definitely
3.
off.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Maybe.
In other news, Prince of Persia remake is still on, apparently, despite Ubisoft delaying it and refunding everyone's pre-orders.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, we've known about this for a long time now. And
not as long as some Ubisoft projects.
No, not as long as Beyond Good and Evil 2. That's clearly not in development, is it? It's clearly not in development. As much as it pains me to say it. I don't know. There's a bit of me that's like, I don't know if I would buy it, but because I personally wasn't the hugest Prince of Persia guy, but that first game was good, right? I mean, it's old now, it's old ass, but like, it was doing some unique stuff at the time.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I mean, I guess they would have to fully remake it. They did remaster it at one point, right? They put out like an HD version of that original
Oh God, I don't know. That must have been ages ago,
Yeah,
because the game is so much older than that.
Yeah, it was still ages ago. So a full-on remake kind of makes sense. But like a bit of me is like, you can't recapture that impact unless you do something else new, and it's.
Well, I mean, that's not what the point of this is, presumably.
No, I guess. I mean, I guess they could do some fancier stuff with time.
Well, yeah, but that's what the sequels are for. Like the first game wasn't really about time travel in any way. It was about weird like parkour puzzles, and then you just had an undo mechanic. That was the time travel aspect.
What? Oh, they explained away dying. Was that?
Well, and you could just rewind the last couple of seconds or whatever.
Oh, I had one of those.
That was the whole sense of time thing, and the dying thing.
No, that's not how it went.
Yes, but it wasn't actually. They didn't do anything really. I mean, I guess there was a couple of like traps or whatever, where it's like reverse time to avoid the death trap or whatever. But it wasn't really about that. Most of the game was the parkour puzzles.
Did it?
And a bit of shit combat.
It must have predated Blinks the Time Sweeper, right? Or not?
Well, I don't know. It must have been close, probably. A similar sort of
seminal time travel game,
early
Blinks
2000s.
the Time Sweeper. Any more news? Honestly, I mean, there was an indie showcase from Nintendo, but most of the games we've seen before are out, and I haven't watched it, so I can't talk about it. But
there's the sad news about Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, from the Batman the Animated Series and all of the
Arkham games.
Batman Arkham games, yeah,
he's real good.
Died.
Oh, he was real good.
Yeah. Well, how old was he? 66. That's
66.
pretty young, isn't it? Yeah.
Cancer related.
Oh, really? Oh, sad times. Yeah. He's a real Batman. Along with the Mark Hamill as the Joker. Classic combo. That was nice to see, because it was good in the animated series, but it was, that was a great show, but it was for kids, so it was nice to see, them get to do those characters in a more
the gritty Arkham Asylum
way, in the Arkham games. Yeah.
I always thought we were a bit of a rare bunch, thinking that Arkham Asylum was the best in the series, but there seems to be a bit of a resurgence of that.
I love that game. I thought,
Arkham Asylum's great. I prefer it to City.
That's one of the only games I got the S rank or whatever, all the achievements.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. I went for. I don't think I got them all in the end, but I definitely put time into just doing achievement stuff, trying to perfect that combat. And
it was really cool. Yeah, Arkham City didn't really work for me.
No, I think the open city enough just kind of dissuaded me from doing half the stuff that's in it.
I got put off by the way it would seem like an open city, but it was really kind of a straight line that was curved into a horseshoe shape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. Probably necessary for the Unreal Engine at the time, but still,
maybe,
yeah. And then I never played Arkham Knight because of the performance issues at the time, but I feel like now it might be a good game to play. I mean, people keep putting out these comparison videos showing how much better the graphics are than Gotham Knights that just came out.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. And it wasn't necessarily a great console experience, and I want to say it was Iron Galaxy with the team that were doing the PC port, and they struggled with it, getting it into a decent state, but you can probably brute force through that now.
I reckon so, yeah. Anyway, but Arkham Asylum, that was a real breath of fresh air. That was a great game.
Yeah, I love it. I love the fact that it was more contained, actually. That it was
a Metroidvania game.
Yeah, that it was a constricted environment, and it did the Metroidvania thing, you can only get in here if you have this. And it's well, that's fine. I can remember where that spot is easily enough, because it's not a ridiculous sprawling city.
Exactly.
It's it's just such a well crafted, well paced game.
It was really cool, and it had those weird. What's the sand guy?
Sandman?
Scarecrow.
Oh, Scarecrow. Oh, yeah,
bit,
those sequences.
where it messed with where it went a little bit meta and
game over, doesn't it? As well, like
it does.
Fake out game over.
Yeah, and I think it fake out crashes as well at one point. It does cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, obviously that had been done before, but still, it was still cool.
Yeah, and they probably couldn't have done it again, and they didn't really. So
no. Yeah. Right, that's the news then, I think. It's time for What Have You Been Playing? Rob, what have you been playing?
There's a Splatfest on at the moment.
I figured since I saw you playing it this morning, I was like, oh, I wonder why.
I'm playing. I'm back.
I wonder if it's
Splatoon.
just normal amounts of Splatoon or if it's specifically weekend Splatoon.
Yeah. Well, I've taken some time away for it for a bit, and I've come back into it for the Splatfest.
You've got another game that you need to play.
Yeah.
And maybe a third one, except I guess not. Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, it's still behaving like it was before is the problem. Like they've done some updates since the last Splatfest that were supposedly aimed at making the connections a bit more stable, that making matchmaking faster. I've noticed they've added if you start matchmaking, you then have a few seconds to cancel out now, which is new. Like they've added the ability to stop matchmaking, but they limit you. Like you really have to do it like within the first 10 seconds or something like that. Otherwise the option disappears and you're locked in. But hey, it's something, I guess. I don't know. My experience with it today during Splatfest has been pretty ropey. Like I've had some of the weirdest, laggiest games I've ever played on it. Especially with the reef slider. So the reef slider is one of the specials where someone basically jumps on the back of, is it a dolphin or a shark? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, something like that. Slides along the ground and then does a sort of AoE attack that's insta-kill, a little bit like how Splashdown was, but there's a build-up to it, like it drifts across the floor and then activates. So it's supposed to be quite a quick thing, like get on, kind of thing. I've seen it where it's just gone wrong, and there's just been a dude, like, in the middle of the battlefield just riding this dolphin thing incredibly slowly across the floor, and it's like that's clearly him lagging out, I guess, in the thing, but it just looks so weird and so hilarious in the middle of a fight where it's just like it's just a guy riding a dolphin just hanging out. But no, I've had so many little problems. Like I had the most frustrating one today was like I was in a game against someone using the Jet Squelcher, which is a pretty low power but quite high accuracy long range rapid fire gun, and it was killing me in one bullet. Like, and it's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be you're supposed to hit them quite a few times in order to land a thing, and it was consistently killing me in one hit. And it's like, that's not right. And there's been plenty of moments where I've seen me kill a guy only for that to actually undo. Like, so it was like the client side was like, oh yeah, you murdered that guy, and then like a second or two later it correct and go, no, actually he got you. And it's like, wait, what just happened? And it's like, it's the worst I've ever seen Splatoon, honestly. Like since Splatoon 1, this is the worst I've seen it behave. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe my internet is real garbage, or I've got some buffer bloat issues going on, making my ping all weirdly jittery. But yeah, I wasn't having the best time with it, which is a shame. Salmon Run's still fine though. Played a bit of that.
Oh, good.
Still checking in with that every now and then, and that's fine.
I mean, that shouldn't be any different in terms of lag.
It really shouldn't. That's the thing. But it's like that seems to always behave itself. I mean, sometimes you feel a little lag, but it's never atrocious. And I never have those like connection issues mid-match. Give Salmon Run some love. Anywho,
I mean,
tomorrow is when they start doing those triple fights. So
assuming they exist.
Yeah, hopefully I can get into a few this time.
What's that?
So those are the freeway fights where two teams of 2 fight against a team of 4 in a sort of pincer formation.
Okay.
They're the new thing in Splatoon 3, like basically the new mode for Splatfests, and that so far I've not been able to get into many of those fights. I do think they work, and I do think they're a minor but interesting enough twist on the formula. But as I said, I've just not really been able to get into those games in the last Splatfest. They just don't come up for some reason. So here's hoping they do more of it this time around. Ugh, and I've been subject to so many lemons. Or just... Hey, do you remember the old giant bomb thing where I remember when Splatoon 1 came out and people were playing it like a deathmatch game? It's like, people still do that. It's like people just kill the other team and it's like, put paint on the ground, morons.
Right, that's the idea of the game.
Put ink on the ground. It's the key. It's the reason we're doing this. Ugh. I shouldn't be top of the leaderboard. That's what I'm saying. Like, if ever I'm the top of the leaderboard, something's gone wrong.
Right.
I'm not that good. Right. Anyway, Splatoon.
Splatoon. Yeah,
it exists. So the reason why I've sort of not been playing Splatoon is because Bayonetta 3 came out, as we alluded to earlier, and I've been playing that pretty. Yeah, I was really looking forward to it. Bayonetta 2 is up there in my pantheon of games. It's especially Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 1's pretty great, but Bayonetta 2 is near perfection in the in character action. I'm going to say some words that I don't think I ever thought I'd say. I don't know that I like Bayonetta 3.
Right.
And it really hurts. Like, I don't know that I'm having a good time playing it. I want to like it a lot, but there's in almost every aspect I can think of, it feels like a downgrade.
Right. Because they've made some significant changes to the core combat, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah. So let's tackle that first. So the combat, the basics of the combo system are the same. You can still rattle off a string of commands with your weapon of choice, and they will act out in the way that they did before, and you can pretty much dodge out of those at any time. And it's pretty generous with the dodge. I think less generous this time round, or maybe that I'm not sure if it's less generous or if it's because enemy attacks are just harder to read. More on that later. But I'm not finding myself able to do the dodges quite as reliably as I once did. I could just be getting rusty. That's a possibility too. I'm not ruling that out. So that core stuff is the same. The main addition here is the ability to summon a massive demon at pretty much any time. Like, unless you're in a confined environment, which is rare, you can, on a pull of ZL on the Switch controller, you can summon a I want to say 5 or 6 or maybe even more story-tied demon to come and fight with you. And whilst you've got that summoned, Bayonetta herself can't move. So you're in a vulnerable state, and you're sort of inputting commands for the demon instead. So it creates the theoretically interesting idea that you can be controlling this thing around whilst also needing to be cognizant of your own position to avoid enemy attacks. The problem is that I think that's the focus of the enemy design in this, and thus the enemies have also got bigger, which generally gives the camera a huge problem to deal with. Like, it's got to pan up a lot for you to be able to see what's going on with your demons or the large-scale enemies. And as a result of that, you can't really see what's going on with you whilst you're doing that. So that doesn't really work in my head. I find that extremely difficult to manage. And also because the enemies have got bigger, like the camera work is just awkward at all times. So you're a lot of the time you're just wailing on something's ankles because you can't see upwards because it's so big. Because the things are so big, it makes seeing the attacks coming harder. Now, there is a green flash when they're about to initiate some attacks, and that's accompanied with a little bit of an audio ping going on in the background to say, hey, something's coming. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's when you should dodge the attack. That just means an attack is starting, and the timing of the attacks is it varies between enemies. So unless you can see what's coming, you can't really reliably dodge it by that warning alone. So that is problematic. I find it far too easy to get wedged in a situation where the camera is just harding out somewhere and I can't see what's going on. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm constantly getting hit by here and I'm just trying to dodge my way out so I can see what's going on. And it's not happy. Also, it has a tendency to just swing around randomly every now and then and be like this is the enemy you should be focusing on. And it's like, why couldn't you have just stayed where you were? Yeah. Like it does have a lock-on system, so you can right-click the stick to focus the camera on a specific enemy, and then a little bit like Hyrule Warriors system. Actually, it's pretty similar to that. And so you can do that. But
I always forget to use that.
Yeah. I kind of am here because I don't really use it in. I don't think I ever really used it in the previous Bayonetta games. I think I didn't. I don't think I focused my efforts like that. I would be like, this enemy's a threat to me at this moment in time. I'm going to just land a few hits on it, maybe hit stun it a little, and then move on to something else and go do something else. So I don't know. The camera is a huge the camera's a huge pain in the ass at all times. Not even in the combat. Like even if you're out of combat, there is. Which I think out of combat is also a step where they've gone backwards a bit, because there is so much downtime in this now. Like, you're not moving into a room and there's a fight, and then you go to another place and there's a fight. And don't get me wrong, exploration has been a bit of a thing in Bayonetta in the past. There's lots of hidden stuff in their environments, all tucked away in little spots and stuff. But you spend a lot of time just walking through these environments and wandering around these big empty spaces, trying to find the collectibles and not getting into the combat. And that balance feels off. It feels really off. Like if you're trying to actually find the stuff, it's in the wrong direction. Sorry, and back to the camera issue, as I was saying. Like, so that's one of the things they do in these exploration bits. There's one of the most annoying bits in these exploration bits is the fact that there's some basic platforming going on in spots where it's like, I need to land this jump here, I need to traverse this thing. Are they like the red coin challenges in Mario where you have a limited amount of time to like pick up all the red coins or something like that? And there are traversal challenges like that. And because the camera has a tendency to look up, like it's really hard to tell where your feet are half the time, even though the game actually puts a really nice glowy like drop shadow where you're about over the ground to be like, this is where you're going, this is where you are, this is where you're going to land. You can't see that half the time because the camera's pointing the wrong bloody way, and it's like you can nudge it down a bit with right stick, but it doesn't stay there. It always wants to point up. So those pretty much all the out of combat stuff kind of feels awkward as well. I don't know, man. Like, it's just the core elements of this game just aren't coming, like, just gameplay wise, they're just not coming together for me. And it's a shame. It really is. Like, and it's further exacerbated by, and this isn't new. This is a thing Bayonetta always done. Its pace of escalation, I suppose, in fights is fast. Like it's like it's every.
So it goes from a few enemies to like overwhelming.
Yeah, well, or more, not necessarily volume of enemies. It's like it introduces new enemies at a rapid pace. Like every few fights or so, you're getting a new enemy, and you're getting a new here's the introduction of this enemy scroll appearing on screen. They still do all of that, but there's loads of enemy types, which is you would think is pretty great, but like actually it just means you don't really get a huge amount of time to adjust to anything. You're always being thrown into something new, and that means I don't feel like I'm getting good. I don't have a chance to get good, to get a feel for what I'm actually supposed to be doing. I'm about halfway through the game, I should point out at this point.
How long is that?
So there's 14 core levels, and I want to say I'm 7 in at this point, 7 or 8 maybe, and it's taken me about an hour to do each one of those, and there's some side stuff along the way. So it's not a small game. reasonable. It's probably in theory about the right length, but I reckon I'm spending the vast majority of that time just walking around the environments. Which leads me to the next point. Art direction. Definitely not as strong as it's been in the past.
Right, yeah.
But again, the core elements are there. The way Witch Time looks, fine. The character designs, great.
Brought over from the previous games.
Bayonetta 3, it's got a Bayo 3 skin on her. She looks...
Yeah, of course.
And the alternate Bayonettas and any returning characters, they will have a slight new flair to them, and it's... All that stuff's great. Talking too much and too fast again. Getting that throat spasm going on. I don't think the new enemies are particularly interesting compared to the angels and demons you fought before. Those were at least kind of weird and creepy with their like angelic faces, like ceramic faces just put on at strange angles and looking real odd. But man, they looked cool. Everything now is like, because the new enemies are effectively human-created bioweapons. Not a spoiler, you learn that pretty early. And thus, they all mostly take a humanoid form. And kind of just grey with a bit of weird turquoise on them. They're all kind of made out of this turquoise goop, and they're just not as interesting to look at, and don't seem as varied to look at, and not as distinctive to pick out in a fight either, which is a problem. But I think that's the least of the troubles. The biggest problem is the environment design and how they look, because they look drab as hell. Like they're just not very well made. Like the opening areas of the game in particular are super grey and super boring, and the texture detail in places is awful. Like not even this gen, maybe previous, like 360 or earlier era texture detail. It's rough in spots. Compounded by the fact that the performance is not great.
Oh no! On top,
I mean there's been a lot of talk about this. This is the famous bit. Like Bayo 3 does not run at 60 locked like previous entries did.
Did Bayonetta 2 run?
Bayo 2 locked 60 during combat on Switch.
Right, that's what you want.
The only time Bayo has intentionally dropped frames was down to 30 for cutscenes, and all of them have done that.
Fine. Yeah.
Here it doesn't even maintain that. Like even during cutscenes, it struggles, which is fine. I can accept that. Like during cutscenes, it doesn't matter. But during gameplay, or even when you're not in combat and you're just standing around and look at the environment, it is not maintaining 60. It is struggling, and it's just you feel it at all times. It is not as slick as the previous games.
That really sucks on top of the combat changes and the camera issues.
I mean, it doesn't look as good, doesn't play as good, doesn't perform as good. Hey, the voice acting's fine. I'm just going to point that out. I'm
sure.
Just going to point it out. It's fine. I'm being super negative on it, and I am. It's still
but you were really hyped for it.
It's still in theory
good reason to be excited.
I think my disappointment might be clouding my feelings towards it slightly, because Bayo 2 is such a great game, and Bayo 3 it just isn't hitting the marks in the way that I wanted it to. I wanted it to be a Bayo 1 or Bayo 1 level at least, and I don't think it's that. I don't think it's there.
No,
I don't. And that disappointment is probably clouding me from seeing what is good about the game, and I'm struggling with that. Honestly, I'm struggling to see what is the good side. I mean, okay, the spectacle is there. Some of the stuff that happens is mental, and I'm down for that. The ideas that it has are plentiful, and the way that they switch between them sometimes is unexpected and wild, and whilst also startlingly great at first, you then realize, okay, I actually don't know what I'm doing, which is a problem in itself. It's like, I don't know, early on in the game there's a cutscene where you take control of Bayonetta Beta 2, one of the other multiverse versions of Bayonetta, and her spider companion, demon, I suppose, and it forces you to use her ability to outrun incoming wave of doom across a destroyed version of Tokyo, but I didn't know that's what was happening. I was like, I didn't know that there was a wave of doom approaching me. It was just like, here you go, chase this thing, and I'm like, all right, I guess I'm in control of this thing I've never used before. Let's go nuts in an environment I'm not familiar with. With slightly awkward controls I've never used before. Let's go. I guess it does a kind of a poor job of like introducing you how to actually control these things and how to actually do well. And sometimes I think these like standout sequences just aren't particularly well designed. But there's a lot of them, so I guess there's going to be some hits and some misses on that front.
Yeah, of course.
I haven't minded the actual full-on kaiju fights though; those have been cool. Like not the demon combat. There's actually like straight up at the end of the main chapters. There's like a kaiju fight, and those are pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah,
simple, but
you
but
saw
cool.
that in the trailers. But yeah.
Cool.
But then on top of all of this, the story stuff is total bullshit, right? Isn't it? I know it was always crazy, but yeah.
Spoilers, I suppose, because I haven't actually got to the end of the game, but I kind of already know what's happened because of the discourse around it. I didn't seek this out; it just happened upon me. So one of the... It was originally a fan ship, shall we say, between Bayonetta and returning character Jean, that those two were a couple. Like main story, main story is kind of meh in itself, but this is kind of the thing that's annoyed the fan base. Like those two were sort of shipped as a couple, and then they kind of the designers and stuff actually got on board with this and made art to kind of like also be like, yeah, this is art we've done for the game and stuff like that. So this is a thing. Yeah, without spoiling it too much or saying exactly what happens, it's totally not a thing. So and they've got into there is a very obvious like. I guess they're intending it as a twist, but it's not a twist. You can tell it's happening immediately.
Right, yeah.
Totally and utterly throws all of that away, which has obviously got the not just the fan base annoyed, but the particularly vocal parts of the LGBTQ society, society. But you know what I mean? That side of it are annoyed, obviously, because it's like, why did you change this? Like, it was fine.
Right.
Yeah. And, the story has promise, don't get me wrong, but it's like it just falls into a routine of not really... it falls into a pattern and then doesn't really do anything with it.
See.
I do like the little... I might have the slightly controversial opinion. I don't think many people agree with me on this, but I do like the little asides every there where you get to play a mini stealthy sort of mission with Jean, like as a 2D platformer. Those are actually kind of nice little asides. It's weird that they kind of have a sort of like old school, like half, I would say somewhere between the intro for Cowboy Bebop and like spy thrillers style intro to them as well. That are kind of rad. I think there is stuff to like here, but as I said, I'm just a little overwhelmed by my disappointment at the moment, and I bet I'll have a better time through it if I go do it a second time, and I'm not doing exploration, and I'm more comfortable with the combat. But it's. I think I want to go play, but it's making me want to play Bayonetta 2. Like every time,
that's the thing.
Every time I play a sequel that disappoints, I want to go back and play the last game, and it's really doing that for me right now. I want to get the Wii U out of the attic and play Bayonetta 2 again.
Oh right, because you need to. But it is out on Switch. Right?
It is available on Switch.
You don't want to have to rebuy the second game just because you disappointed in the third game. That sucks. Yeah,
that's Bayonetta 3. I think that's all there is to say on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Bit of a bummer.
I mean, we've been hearing about that coming for a long time. Getting hype.
I mean, it's reviewing well enough for the Fantasy League, so that's good, I guess.
Oh right. I mean,
it's not reviewing as well for the Fantasy League, which is helpful for me.
Sonic Frontiers.
Yeah. I've dodged that one quite successfully, it seems.
See, my experiences with Bayo 3 and then listening to the reviews for Sonic Frontiers. Review scores are messed up sometimes, right? Because everyone, like Sonic Frontiers, for as far as I can tell, like other than late game tedium and that it doesn't necessarily change over its wrong time, all the comments I'm hearing about Frontiers are, hey, Sonic's going in the right direction. Like, this actually might be the best thing they've put out for a long time.
Well, I think the thing is, the way to say it is that, like, it's a 7 out of 10 game if you're reviewing it as a video game, and it's an 8 or a 9 if you're reviewing it as a Sonic game.
As a Sonic game, yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah, because, like, again, the sentiment I've seen on Twitter, so maybe these are unverified accounts, oh dear. But people seem to like this thing, and I'm surprised it's not reviewing stronger. That's all I've got to say. I haven't played it, so who knows? It could, but I'm not the best.
We are the arbiters of whether Sonic is good.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, we can decide. I mean, the thing I'm seeing on the review thread on Reddit is a guy's like, I'm hearing it's the best 3D Sonic in a long time, and I'm also hearing it's an absolutely horrible game. So it's completely divided.
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't necessarily seen that alternate viewpoint, though. I haven't seen people coming out of it going like, "This is a pain in the ass." Don't get me wrong. I understand there are flaws with it, and I think the ones the reviews pick up on sound valid. Like, there's not enough of those, the cyberspace levels or whatever. There's not enough.
There's not enough of the good side.
There's not enough themes. I mean, for them. Right. Like, they have a very few set of environments that and they're also retreading old ground with those environments. And it's like,
you mean they didn't manage to port all of Sonic Generations into it? Only some of it.
Yeah, there's actually surprisingly few of those like environments. Not so many. Yeah, and it's like that's a little bit of a letdown. They could have done more stuff with that stuff. But they liked the fact these are only like minute-long challenge runs rather than full-on levels, and that means they could make more of them, I guess. It's like, I feel like the positives should outweigh the negatives on it, and it's, yeah. Anyway, that's outside looking in. We'll play it eventually.
Probably.
I mean, it's a Sonic game. I'm going to play it eventually.
Yep.
What else have we been doing? Segue time, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so.
Deep Rock Galactic Season 3.
Well, before that, let's actually just finish off the classic segue. We finally, for real, actually finished all of the content in Age of Calamity.
Yeah, we got to the end of Age of Calamity, and we've done everything.
In 160 hours.
160 hours, yeah.
Nice one.
There is
a year and a half of it. Or was it a whole year? Has it been a whole year?
I think it has been, yeah.
Yeah, I think we must have done before last October.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember us talking about it in our not game of the year last year, being like if this had come out this year, this would be pretty high. Okay. So we cleared off every check. We were a bit surprised when nothing more appeared. It's one of those games that just seems to keep. There was no real fanfare for us finishing everything, right?
Well, I mean, there was the one big ending cutscene where it shows everyone doing things. It's just that just happens at a certain point.
Yeah, I can't remember when that was. Was it for us? Oh, it was for us completing all the memory missions.
Yeah,
getting all of the the side tasks on the memory missions done.
Yes, which you can obviously do before you've cleared up all the other bullcrap on the map.
Yeah,
because it doesn't stop you from doing anything in any order.
And we unlock the final character after that.
Yep,
because it's
linked to finishing all the memories.
Yeah, it's linked.
Not all of them.
No, one specific one
that we just hadn't done until quite late.
Yeah,
because it was difficult.
It was a slightly tricky requirement. Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't even difficult. It was just
it was unknown. It didn't tell you what it was.
Yeah,
right?
well, I mean, they're all unknown, but it also didn't. Well, all those harder ones are, but it didn't make sense. I guess
it didn't,
because it didn't make sense in the context of the mechanics of the rest of the game. Because it's the gate has closed, and then you think, okay, then you just leave. But then if you come all the way back to that closed gate, this is the one time where that gate just opens again.
It just opens itself, yeah, without
for no reason.
And if you progress too far, then you can't go back and do that.
Yeah,
and it's an awkward timey-wimey thing that's not so clear. There aren't really any. I can't really remember any cases where that's a thing.
Well, no, because every other time a gate opens, it's triggered by you doing
a player
something.
Action, yeah,
not just being in the vicinity.
Yeah, and you have to stay there for long enough without doing the next bit. and then it just sort of happens.
It's not even just staying there; it's you have to go actually back to that gate, or close enough to it for the thing to trigger.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It was weird.
But yes, we finished with that, which means we've now started the previous game.
We've started playing Definitive Edition. It's a quite a different beast, isn't it?
In some ways, yeah.
So it's obviously not got all the Breath of the Wild like trappings, obviously,
and it's clearly not restricting itself in any way. It's like Age of Calamity exists in the Breath of the Wild world, and that's it. Whereas in this, it's just like we're just random Zelda bullshit is happening.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like, it doesn't even really explain itself. No. Well, it's trying to say there's some like multiversal gubbins or
we
something.
Kind of haven't got to that yet, I guess, or at least I assume it's going to explain itself a bit.
I mean, it might not,
because we haven't. I guess we haven't yet done a mission where
we're still in the prologue.
We haven't yet done a mission where what you would say is a non-canonical to this world Zelda character has shown up yet.
Yeah,
it's just been Link, Zelda, Sheik, and Impa, and a fairy. And it's like, they can all canonically exist in this Zelda world.
And a weird wizardy dude, and
a
guy dressed like a monster hunter.
Yes, also a bit weird. That was very unexplained.
Yeah,
the wizardy dude, that's fine. That's just like a Zelda enemy. But like the dragon riding guy, that's that's kind of weird.
But it despite it being a similar game in theory, like it does feel very different. Like,
I was trying to work out what it was, because originally I said it felt more squishy, but
I don't know that squishy and mushy is the right phrase.
Well, it's because it's a lot like. Animation-wise, it's a lot faster, which gives you less time to actually realise what's happening, and therefore it gives you even less sort of opportunity to perceive the button inputs as part of a combo.
I guess
that's why it feels. That's why I said squishy. It's like it's not, but it's like that's the coming from the other game. That's what it feels like, because you're not having it as long to actually figure out what the fuck is even happening.
In a weird way, it feels a bit more... Yeah, I think the action is much faster, I would say. And that's not just because the performance is a lot better.
Well,
because
there is that.
Because the visuals are a whole lot simpler.
Yeah.
It's... Yeah, I think in some ways those combos are just simpler, right?
Well,
they're not as flashy. Limited. They're not as... Yeah, it is a different feeling thing. But yeah, you get into a fight with like a semi-boss, I suppose, like the Moblins are in Age of Calamity, and it's like it's no real big deal, I suppose. You just sort of wail on them for a bit, kind of.
Well, I mean,
they have got similar mechanics. They still like the armor break, and the finisher, which it felt automatic this time. Like it just sort of did it if you broke the armor.
Yeah, I guess like it just happens as part of your combo, like replacing a part of it or something. But I'm wondering whether like. What they're going to are these combos going to get extended at all?
Yeah, we don't know how the progression works.
The other thing is that like the other thing that we've only just got the ability to see, I guess, is that like characters can have different weapons that are actually completely different combo strings, like how Link does in Calamity, but
and
like for everyone
Zelda does, yeah.
And they're actually, I believe, meant to be more different in this game,
right? Well, it seems like maybe like we haven't found them yet on the because we've seen some of the progression trees, right? And I didn't spot anything on those trees that were like extend the combos, but like
no,
the combo strings look too simple at this point. Like
it's like free,
and they're displayed in the same way that it does in Age of Calamity, which makes me think that there's room for stuff to attach onto this, and get bigger. So that's exciting. More random stuff to unlock,
maybe. But it also seems like it could have potential to be quite grindy.
I mean,
getting the drops to unlock all these little mini upgrade parts for every character.
It's well known to be a bit of a grindy game.
Yeah, but I think it's well known for being grindy, as in just having a million missions, not necessarily that you have to grind for items.
Yeah, if you're doing the the old school Zelda map mode or whatever, where it uses like Zelda 1 map pieces to build a progression, and there's like 1,000,000,001 of those different progressions or something to do.
We haven't played that much of it.
So no. We've literally only played the first 2 missions. The only thing that is slightly different this time round is I'm not convinced it's dealing with co-op as well.
Well, no, it's clearly not, because you start co-op on the start of each mission. Yeah. It doesn't really maintain, which makes it feel like it probably is a bit of a side feature.
Yeah, and you are often a different place on the first mission, and so it changed.
That's not necessarily bad.
No, but it changed the mechanic of how the 2 characters are supposed to meet, essentially, and you don't really have to now because they're not really. And also, it doesn't matter who you pick; it doesn't care.
That's true.
Anymore. Or there seem to be fewer restrictions about who you bring into it, and how it handles that doesn't seem as good. To the point where it's I'm a little bit tempted to play the missions again solo, to be to see. If we do them in co-op, we'll see them one way, but then there might be a little bit of maybe I should do that solo to see how it's supposed to play out. It's got that sort of there's enough of a difference there that's I feel like there may be something more to playing it solo. It just in terms of that, clearly we're going to do the whole thing co-op, but
not the whole thing, probably though. We're going to do some large percentage of it.
Yeah, enough of it. Oh, you don't automatically pick up items. That is the thing. There's chests in the middle of the level that have a sequence to them. And mechanically, it feels more this is probably what a Dynasty Warriors game is more supposed to be like. Right?
Capturing points.
Capturing points means more now.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they are enemy spawners, and it's
and the enemies can actually capture things back.
Yeah, which I'm not sure we ever really saw outside of story sequences. Well, they probably could do at some points in the game, but it wasn't really a problem. No. In Age of Clarity,
I think by far the thing that's already I'm finding extremely annoying is the not auto picking things up, because not only do you not auto pick things up, but the items don't immediately come out of the corpse the moment you kill them. You have to wait for their whole death sequence, and then the items pop out.
Right.
So if you've already ran away by that point, you're having to loot back around just to make sure you pick up the loot, which you then need to do the unlocks or whatever.
Mop up some stragglers, and then.
Unless that's an upgrade at some point. Item
maybe.
magnet.
Yeah, maybe. But then, I can see the argument for, perhaps you don't want it to magnetize some stuff. You don't want it to pick up, there are things that just boost your special bar and stuff now. Maybe you don't want to pick those up if you've got full special. I don't know.
Well, if it's an intelligent one, it won't pick them up before.
Maybe. I don't know. I think it just lets you now, if you run over them.
Sure.
Rather than them bouncing off you. Anywho, we've got that to discover. I'm excited.
And then Dirk Season 3, which we haven't played that much of, as always.
I feel like we've almost played enough of it to see all the content. Already.
Well, that is the problem with this season, I think, is that, it may not be super interesting.
No.
And the new mechanics is kind of
tedious pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So there are plaguey... if you're playing a what's it even called?
Playful.
No, there's something lithophage. There we go. It's called lithophage
missions
infestation or something. Yeah, they're tagged, aren't they? The missions will have a thing.
So what the actual problem with this is so the lithophage missions creates this toxic area that you have to clean up with special equipment, and then that's that's a thing you have to do in the mission, which would be fine, except that it's classed as a second primary mission.
Yeah,
so if you're in the lithophage, if you're in a mission that's classed as a lithophage warning, which is normally where mutators go essentially, but it's not like a mutator, it's a full another primary objective stacked on top of your regular primary objective, and therefore you can't not do it. If you're in a lithophage mission, you have to do it, because otherwise it won't let you end the mission. And then you also still have your secondary mission, so it just makes the missions extra long, which is actually kind of the real problem.
Yeah,
because missions in Deep Rock Galactic are already long.
Yeah, they can be pretty chunky, and we've definitely had some that have really gone on far too long, whereas having to deal with that, or try and figure out ways of getting to the plague, and then also dealing with the mission, especially in larger, more complex caves. Then it's
yes. Also,
there's just the mechanic is quite, I don't know, a little bit tedious, right? One player has to foam them up, and then you have to vacuum the foam back up, and that brings the plague with it into your machine. And it's Luigi's mentioning it could be interesting, but it's not really.
Yeah, there's nothing to it.
Yeah,
you just quickly spray it over all the yellow stuff, and then someone vacuums it up.
I mean, equally nothing are the meteor events that happen in non-lithophage missions, where there's just like an explosion that just happens. And, and then there's some stuff to recover from it.
It is sort of interesting that it can spawn into the mission and therefore affect the terrain of that mission directly.
Which isn't a terrible idea. Having stuff manipulate the world mid-mission is kind of interesting.
Yeah. But the event
I'm not sure this isn't that great an implementation of that idea, but...
Well, I mean, the other problem with both of these things is that, like, it maybe needs a bit of patching to, like, adjust its spawning mechanisms, because like the lithophage as in large caves where it spawns miles up on a little ledge on the wall, that's just really annoying to deal with, because you have to somehow get up there, and also because obviously if you stand on the goop you start dying, and therefore you want somewhere that you can stand that's safe, so you don't just have to get up there, you also have to like
need a recovery spot,
have a place to go. And then with the meteor, even in the first one that we saw, it landed on basically a spike.
In the ceiling, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was miles up on this, it wasn't even terrain, it was like one of those weird spiral things.
Right.
That it landed on top of. But fortunately, there was sort of a ledge up the side of the room that we could then bridge across from. But it was really inconvenient and clearly shouldn't have spawned like that. It should have... gone down to the level bit of ground where the spiral thing stopped.
Fortunately, those are optional, but
yes,
but you want to do them because they
are how you unlock the script progression tree on the actual season pass.
Season pass progression is there,
which is also dumb because another problem, which is that since the meteors don't spawn in the lithophage missions, if you're doing a lithophage mission, you can't progress the script tree.
Right? Yeah, it doesn't help you with that.
No. So the new content is actually almost incentivizing you not to do
it, yeah. I'm tempted to think about avoiding those now, rather than making them more interesting.
And also, in my case...
I don't mind the new monsters, though, like with the more specific weak spot.
The two new monsters.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Well, there's the little worm dudes and the...
Oh, okay, free.
Yeah. I don't mind those, but they're like... the fact that you have to hit the weak spots is fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's like clearly, unless you're forced to play a lithophage warning, there's not really much reason to do them.
No,
you just play regular missions and hope you get the meteors for unlocking the script tree, and that's all you really care about.
They have happened every time in the ones we've played so far. Like,
yeah, I've been trying to see if I can, from what I've played and from any people talking about it, see if I can figure out what's actually going on. Because a lot of people have also been complaining about those because it appears that the meteor spawn is just literally time-based. Like, how you just spend time in the mission and then there's a chance that it can spawn. And apparently it can even spawn more than once per mission.
Oh, really?
Supposedly. I've never seen that happen.
Huh.
But then the problem that people have been having, which a lot of people have been saying might just be a speedrunner problem, is that the meteor can spawn after you've called the drop pod.
Oh, that's annoying. That could be fun in a weird way.
It could be fun, or it could just suck because you just don't have the time to do it.
You're not going to be able to do it, but the fact that a meteor spawns and if it spawned somewhere that really knocked you off course or something, that could be fun.
Well, yeah, maybe. Although they don't make that big an obstruction, really. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that. And then the new grenades some of them are not working particularly great initially. Well, I mean, the driller one
does work fine.
The driller one was the friendly fire machine. It just murders your teammates more than it kills the fire. In fact, it literally does more friendly fire damage than normal damage. It has 110% modifier to friendly fire.
Weird.
For some reason.
Is that the bullet one?
No, it's the blades, the saw blades one.
Oh, the saw blade. Okay.
So that was just a team-killing machine. I think it's
that's hilarious.
Although from seeing actual gameplay videos of it now, I think it's not as difficult to use as I imagined it would be, because it looks like it runs along the train. So you see people put it in a corridor to make it loop around the corridor and basically kill everything that's trying to walk up the corridor. And you might think that would be difficult to deal with because of the way it would run along the geometry, right? But I don't think it does actually run along geometry. I think it runs on a set plane from where you deploy it. So if you deploy it in a tunnel, it will loop around that tunnel, but it will stay on that loop, like an intersecting plane through where you laid it.
Oh, weird.
So it doesn't actually react to the physical geometry of the tunnel, I don't think.
So can you launch it at a diagonal angle and have it like spiral down the corridor?
No, I think it would probably go in an oval shape in that case. I do need to actually test it myself.
So it will definitely come back.
Yeah.
Weird.
I do need to test that myself, but that's what it looks like from the videos I've seen of it.
Huh.
And then the gunner's gun grenade, where it just spews a shit ton of bullets out, that's obviously a friendly fire machine just to start with. Also because it doesn't have any range. Any range limit. So those bullets will just hit people on the other side of the room if they happen to be in the wrong place.
That's quite funny.
And also that one is more problematic for like how it deploys because it's meant to stick into terrain. If it like hits an enemy instead, it like bounces off and then lands at like some jank angle or just comes back into your face and kills you instantly.
I mean, that's pretty funny.
But yeah, the Shredder Swarm is fine, although it's going to make people waste a lot of ammo because you can only deploy them once, but it doesn't stop you from throwing the grenade again. So you can easily waste all your grenade ammo by throwing those and just having them self-destruct.
Yeah, okay, that's a problem. But the boomerang...
The boomerang is fine, but not like super powerful.
Yeah.
It's a bit underwhelming, really. The stun is good. Like, the stun lasts forever.
It lasts a while, yeah.
But it can only hit, like, 9 targets, which is kind of not really enough.
You get a reasonable stock of them, though.
Yeah, you get, like, 8. And if you happen to throw one where there's literally nothing it can target, you don't waste it. It just comes back.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be much... I think that they shouldn't have made it an ammo thing. They should have made it literally come back. Maybe have a recharge time as well, I guess.
Yeah. Make it more like an Overwatch ability.
Yeah, but just make it so you just throw it out and maybe even reduce the stun or damage output in that case if you have infinite of them. But like the whole point of the boomerang is it comes back to you. They even animated it doing that, but you don't get it back. So it's kind of pointless that it comes back to you.
Yeah, it's counting the charges, I suppose, on it. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
If you throw it and it doesn't come back, and it hasn't hit anything, you haven't used the charge. So
yes, but that's on such a rare occasion that you're actually going to be able to, that you're even going to be able to throw it and not have it lock onto something. It's very unlikely. So that's Dirk.
Dirk. You've both been playing it. Is that the Orinoco flow for
a little bit?
If you segued into Zachary Burgess.
I didn't quite get that until you said that.
Yes, I've been playing some stuff. Only one more demo this week.
We've segued, and now Zeg is away. Zeg away.
But he's here. He's talking about the demos he's been playing.
Only one demo, and it was the demo for Factorio on Switch.
Oh, you just had to know.
Well, I had to see what this weird control scheme is like after I talked about what I didn't know about it several times, apparently. But yeah, I went in there and fiddled around with it, not for very long, and it is... Well, the weird thing about Factorio on Switch is, like, it's literally a console port in, like, that direction. Like, it's just a PC game running on a console.
Right.
You can really tell. Mainly because, like, you start the game and it just has a loading bar, which is very unconsole-y. It just has a straight loading bar as it does all the bitmap buffering or whatever it's doing.
You don't see that much these days, do you? Like, there's normally just a glowy thing somewhere.
Or a start screen.
Yeah.
Or anything. But yeah, it straight up just has a loading bar into it. And then once you get to the menu, it's like... Especially the control binding menu is just like, it's pretty much just the whole list of every command you can do on PC, except that like half of them aren't bound to anything because obviously there aren't enough buttons for that.
They might have added a loading bar readout too. They might have done that.
And then if you look deeper into that list of controls, there's even a couple of things where it's just like, this probably shouldn't be here. Where it's just like, you can, if you want to go into this controls menu and bind a control for it, you can access the debug menu.
Oh, wow.
And see all the debug information.
Huh.
And I think there's even a control in that list that specifically mentions something about mods, and obviously mods don't exist on the Switch either, so that shouldn't be there, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, and then once you actually get into the game trying to play it, it's kind of doable, but like it takes a lot of getting used to, obviously. If you've been playing it on PC, you're used to a lot of different things, but it has... Well, I mean, the first thing is obviously in order to fit all these controls, it has a lot of like modifiers where you have to hold down one button and then it modifies what the other button does. And then there's like, well, it also obviously in order to have more buttons, it does use the D-pad, so you're using both sets of 8 buttons and all 4 triggers.
Sure.
And I think because there's a control that's actually bound to this button in the normal control list, I think it actually wants you to play with the Joy-Con separate, because I think it wants you to actually use the inside buttons as well.
Wow, really?
Simultaneously with all the other ones.
Holy crap, that is a lot of buttons.
Yeah. So, and then on top of that, a lot of them are just modifiers to add even more buttons. But then, so like the main actual like way it functions is you have your left stick to move and your right stick to move the cursor, except it has a toggle between a sort of invisible cursor that's like attached to a ring around you, so you can like aim, you can push towards something that you're nearby and it will highlight it. But then you can just click the right stick and turn it into an actual cursor that you can just move around the screen. So it's got like this sort of auto-targeting or the actual cursor. And then that sort of works the way Factorio plays, because you can use the auto-targeting to just like, you know, access a building you're standing next to or whatever, or place a building because you have to be near things to place them anyway. But then if you want to do, this took quite a while for me to work out how to even do it, but when you want to, if you have like a line of furnaces that have been smelting stuff, but you want to run along the line and pick everything up out of the furnaces, the way you do that on PC is like you put your mouse cursor over the furnace and then you'd run down, because the screen tracks where you are, your mouse cursor just runs along the line and then you just hold down the button to scoop all the stuff. So you can do that in the console version by toggling into the cursor, moving that cursor onto the thing and then holding down the pick up stuff combo button and then running downwards, except because it's right stick, left stick, you've then got this thing where you have to like position the cursor first with the right stick, then take your fingers off the right stick to push the pick up button, and then use the left stick to move you while you're holding down the pick up button. So it gets sort of awkward in that way where you have to remember, like, don't touch this stick while you're doing this other thing.
Could some of this have been solved by, heaven forbid, going pointery?
Well, I mean, that's kind of what that cursor is for.
Like, as in, like, motion control pointery.
Well, I don't know if that would work. I also didn't actually test how much touchscreen interface it has.
Oh, right, yeah.
If it actually has some. I think it does. But then you know, with the controllers detached, maybe it does have pointer stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen that either. I should probably actually, because I didn't take it out of the dock basically while I was testing it, so I didn't actually test any of that. But with this sort of, and then the way it deals with the hotbar, like you'd have on PC, is now a radial menu, except it's like a layered radial menu. So you basically have tabs in this radial menu. So you go into your inventory, you put an item into your cursor, then you hold down the radial menu button, then you put it on the radial menu where you want it to be, and then you can tab through like all the different versions of your radial menu, so you can have like 10 different versions of it that you can sort through, and then when you're in the actual game you can hold down that button to bring up the little radial menu and push the right stick in the direction of the thing you want.
That's probably okay.
So that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Although I kind of would have, my problem with it is that I can't see it at all times. Like the hotbars are just there at the bottom of the screen on PC, so I always know everything that's there. Whereas with this radio menu, I have to like pop it up and then remember where everything is in that specific wheel. Yeah. It's not visible at all times, so it's not as easy to keep track of.
I can see why they would scale that back though, because the lower resolution running on the actual Switch screen.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Especially in portable mode.
Well, I mean, it has UI scaling. Like, you can change the UI scale, so you can mess with that a bit. I don't know how far you can turn that down or up exactly, because it defaults at like 125%. So it's actually slightly scaled up compared to how it would be at normal resolution, I guess. But yeah, it's weird to try and play when you're used to PC, obviously, but it seems like it should work. It's just it's a lot of stacked, and also maybe it doesn't tutorialize very well either, because it sort of hides too much of the stuff, like slightly too long. Because in the tutorial, it's split into like these little mini missions where you do like a little bit of progress, and then it moves to a different map essentially, so it can have different setups. But like, you get to you only see the like command tooltip on like the third mission, as in like the little tooltip in the bottom right corner that tells you all the buttons you can currently push. And that's way too late for that to be showing up, because that's like a helpful reminder where it's like push Y to pick stuff up, push left on the D-pad to toggle your hotbars or whatever. I would have thought that should have been there immediately, really, rather than having that hidden. I don't know why that was hidden, unless they were trying to like force you to remember the buttons.
Maybe.
But because there's so many of these complicated, multi-layered, like, hold different buttons at different times,
it's a bit of a learning exercise.
That seems a bit much. But yeah, that's Factorio on Switch. I don't know. I'm not going to play it on Switch. And it's only the demo, so obviously I'm not going to play that.
Sure.
For real. I haven't played any actual Factorio this week either, so no more Factorio talk. What else? There was Derg, that was the other main thing, but then I did get Against the Storm.
Oh, cool.
I thought it was actually coming out, but it wasn't. It was actually it's the early access release on Steam.
Oh, I see.
Rather than on Epic. So I was just like, oh, well, never mind, I guess. I'll get it anyway.
Well, it's probably a little... Is it like one of those like early access discounts anyway?
Well, yes, obviously. Yeah. There was the introductory price or whatever.
Yeah.
So what's the game? Against the Storm?
Yes, that's the roguelike city builder thing, which initially would be a reason to not get it immediately, because as we said about Rogue Legacy 2 and whatever, like, you're taking a risk buying a roguelike early because of the way adding content into a roguelite is sort of going to mess with your overall like meta run or whatever, and then like individual runs could be longer if they add later content onto the end of the run or anything like that. In this case, I think it's probably okay because of the way when you unlock stuff, it's not like the blueprints for buildings and whatnot, because the run is random and like you're just given a random choice of 4 blueprints every time it rolls for a blueprint. Having more content be added into that doesn't necessarily affect the way that plays, assuming that it's correctly balanced. Because when it rolls the blueprints, it's clearly sort of trying to give you buildings in a logical order, where it's like it gives you the sort of the like scavenger camp type stuff first, and then like farms, and then like processing buildings, and then like the late game like bar, like tavern and whatever that uses the high end products. It does try to give you the blueprints in the right order, but just like a random grouping of blueprints at that level as you progress through the run. So adding more content to that wouldn't necessarily mess with the balance of it in that way.
Right.
And also, as I've been getting into more of the like meta progression stuff, where between each city building part you unlock a tech tree essentially using the special resources, that can add to the blueprint pool as well. And also like that tech tree starts adding like actual mechanics as well, and also adds buffs that make it easier to survive longer, or like, well, yeah, basically to survive longer. So your actual progression through the tech tree also affects the actual way the individual runs play in a way that is still progress, and therefore adding more stuff to that wouldn't necessarily mess with that either. And then with these upgrades that adjust how the game actually plays, it weirdly has this effect of the difficulty level is not really a difficulty level exactly. It's sort of, in a way, it's more like the hazard levels in Derg.
Right.
Where it is technically difficulty, but you don't have to do it.
Right.
You can just play it at whatever difficulty you want, really.
Sure.
You just get more rewards if you do it at the harder difficulty. And because of the way the tech tree upgrades make the game easier in certain ways, it just sort of inherently makes it so that you will be able to progress to harder difficulties as you get further up the tech tree, because those tech tree unlocks are making the game slightly easier.
Oh, okay, I get it. So you'll naturally progress up the difficulty if you want.
Yeah, but you don't have
to earn faster.
Yeah, you earn more rewards quicker, so you can unlock the tech tree quicker. But going up the tech tree inherently makes the game slightly easier too.
Right, gotcha.
So yeah, that's the slightly.
I mean, that's neat in a way, right?
Yeah,
it's like going back to anything with character progression, right? You upgrade your character, and then you new game plus it on a harder difficulty because.
Well, that's the other thing about this is I clearly haven't got anywhere near this yet because I'm still quite early in the tech tree and everything. But it does appear there might be some kind of new game plus in this as well.
Huh.
And I also haven't even unlocked the hardest difficulty level yet.
Apocalyptic.
Yeah, well, maybe. But yeah, and then the difficulty levels have quite a significant effect on the actual, actually, the third difficulty level, once you get up to the third one, actually adds a whole new mechanic even, that's tied to the difficulty, where, during the storm, these plant growths start growing on your building, so you have to have flamethrower guys that go and burn it down. So it adds another actual sort of mini tech tree inside the gameplay part of it that you have to deal with. And different buildings doing different recipes generate the blight at a different speed. So I haven't tried that yet. I'm still only at the second difficulty, which is manageable currently. I might need a few more of the tech tree upgrades to fully get that under control, because it can be quite, a danger of failure, which is, that's what the point of the roguelike city builder is. There's actual possibility to actually fail in a city builder, which is not normally the case. In City Skylines, pretty much impossible to fail. No matter what you do, even if everyone in your city dies and your whole city gets gummed up by hearses, doesn't really matter.
It's still going, yeah.
But in this, you can fail. But I think
gummed up with hearses.
Does tend to be what happens. But I think there might be a slight. I don't know if it's hard to tell if it's going to be a balance problem in the future, or whether that is a sort of an early game thing. But it's it's too easy to win by accident, kind of, or win in a way that you don't want to win. So you have basically an explicit time limit on how long you can spend in a mission, because you have the Queen's Impatience that just goes up over time. And if it reaches the top, you fail. So therefore, you have to win before that happens. So there is an explicit maximum amount of time you could possibly spend.
Right.
And then on the other side of that, the way to win is to get reputation by completing orders from the Queen. Usually, that's the most direct way to do it, because you complete the order and it just gives you a reputation point, and the impatience bar goes down by one step as well.
Okay.
So it shifts it basically. And you need a certain number of reputation points to win. And that's fine. But then there's the other way to get reputation. Well, one of the other ways to get reputation is if the people in your town are happy enough, they start generating reputation over time. But you can't stop that. So if you actually make everyone happy enough, you're then on a time limit to win instead of a time limit to lose.
Oh, interesting.
You can't stop yourself from winning. Which is actually...
Oh, you run out of game.
Which is actually, a bad thing, because if you explore more of the world, you can find the meta resources you need to unlock the tech tree.
Right, yeah.
So you actually want to spend longer in the map, but now you've accidentally made it so you can't by being too good.
Right.
And you could maybe like super micromanage that and just like make people exactly the right amount happy.
I mean, you could argue that's true of like roguelites as well, right? If you're able to get through your run in a more direct path rather than scrounging side routes, you're actually boning yourself out of resources you need to.
Yeah, kind of. But in this case, it's just because it is essentially a time limit. It's not like you're choosing to do it exactly, because you can choose not to turn in the orders.
Oh, interesting.
So you can complete them and have them on like standby.
Yeah.
So if you need to win really quickly, you can just like complete all the orders and then just leave. If you cock up somehow, but you've got all these orders completed, you can just be like, oh shit, time to go.
Yeah. I need to clear this up.
But then you can't stop yourself from winning by that passive gain unless, like I said, you do some like extreme micromanagement of being like, I have to disable these people from eating this food that they like so they don't get as happy, so it will stay under the limit. Which is kind of an awkward system.
Weird, yeah.
And there's been a couple of other cases where I don't know if it needs a balance edit or something, but there's a couple of other things that feel like they're too micromanagey to even like bother with almost.
Right.
Like there was a buff that I got on one of these levels where if you exhaust a resource node during spring, or the game's equivalent of spring, it turns into farmland. But that only happens if you literally use up that node only during spring. So then you're in like this situation where you have to be like watching your harvesters harvest this node, watching the number go down, and then if it gets too low, you have to be like, okay, you guys go and harvest this other node for the rest of the year until spring rolls around, and then quickly harvest that node.
And then finish that one off.
And it's just like, that's way too much micromanagement.
And is the benefit like useful?
Well, I mean, having more farmland is definitely useful, but because it only spawns like a little tiny patch of farmland per resource node. I mean, the resource nodes are usually grouped into small groups, so you'd want all of those resource nodes to get turned into farmland to make a reasonably sized field.
To make it useful, yeah.
So then you're having to like do this dance of like manipulating priority on all of the nodes of this patch over years as it comes back to spring every time.
It's like strange.
It's just like, that's way too much micromanagement. But like,
could that be like? Would that be better solved with like a scheduler of some description?
Yeah.
Say like, come do this and that at this time.
I mean, that is one of the things that I feel like maybe they could implement possibly, is like a little more of that management aspect of like seasonal schedules for that reason, because there are some other things that are very seasonal. It's mostly good things during the spring, bad things during the winter.
Right.
So there's other things like when you open up a new area of the forest during the spring, you get bonus resources. So that's slightly more manageable to micromanage, because usually you kind of want to open new areas of the forest early in the year so you have longer to deal with the bad things before the bad part of the year, essentially. But then the other sort of management aspect that I'd want is, you can set, when you're setting recipes for the different buildings to make, you can set a limit of like how much output you want. So you can be like, only make 20 planks. But I kind of want a like the opposite of that limit. I want to be like, make planks until there's only 20 wood left. So you reserve an amount of wood rather than limiting the maximum amount of planks.
Yeah.
Like, I want that opposite limit rather than only being able to limit the product output. I want to be able to limit the input stockpile, essentially, I guess. Because there's no real way to control that. So you sort of just have to watch the numbers and then just like turn buildings on and off as necessary. So again, it's just a little bit more micromanagement that I feel like you could take out, but I don't know if that would be beneficial to the game as a whole. Because like, if you automate too much micromanagement, then you're just not playing the game any longer.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, apart from that, it's pretty cool. Although this is obviously maybe another early game problem that I'm just not, that I don't know if I'm progressing the tech tree as fast as I should be, but I feel like I've already gotten into like some very specific like patterns. Like I just build my town in this exact way, and it just works.
Right.
And also, I feel like maybe there's a couple of blueprints of buildings that are a bit too critical feeling, where it's like if you see that blueprint come up, you pretty much just take it without even bothering to look at any of the other options. Like the smokehouse to make jerky, because jerky is just such a ridiculously powerful food upgrade. Because it multiplies the food, basically. Like, you take 4 meat and turns into 10 jerky, so that's already, like, doubled the amount of food. And then the jerky itself
I'm pretty sure that's not how jerky works.
No.
But okay.
But then the jerky itself can be used in other recipes, so you're like, multiplying the food that way. And jerky is one of the foods that, like, a couple of the races specifically like, so that increases their happiness or whatever, if you're trying to get that up. So it feels like the smokehouse is almost always you just take that. And then I've also been like, I almost always take the carpenter because it's a good way. It's not the best way to make planks. It's a good way to make planks, but it also can make like tools and some other stuff. And that is, I feel like some of the blueprints and their like star ratings on the different recipes. Maybe there's not enough options really. Because, like, the smokehouse is the only building that has the 3-star jerky recipe that makes it the most efficient.
Well, you got to smoke that jerky somehow.
Yeah.
You got to smoke these meats.
But, you know, you could do it in, like, the kiln, and it's a 1-star version of that recipe where it's, like, 8...
Kiln.
It's like...
I'm going to pot some meat.
Well, yeah, pretty much. But then it's like 8 meat to 10 jerky. So it's much less... You still get the bonus of having the jerky, but you don't like have that massive food multiplication. And that's how all the buildings are balanced. They have like this 1 to 3-star rating. So the carpenter is a 2-star on planks, but you could get the lumber mill, which is a 3-star on planks. But then it's just that the carpenter has these other things it can also make that I always feel are more worthwhile. But
you could get involved in that pork urn market.
Yep. But yeah, I feel like maybe this is just an early game thing because I still haven't unlocked all the blueprints, but I feel like there's too many cases where I'm just like, I just have to take that one because that's just the best option to do several things at once that I'm going to need. Like the provisioner for making flour and provisions.
Stupid thought.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me, like, when you talk about, like, pots and things, like,
okay.
Because my brain is stuck with this idea of, like, ceramics made of meat.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about a clay pot, you're talking about a pot made of clay.
Yeah.
When you talk about a coin jar, you're not talking about a jar made of coins. You're talking about a jar that contains coins. So, like, if you have a clay pot, it's going to be a pot in which you put all your clay in.
Well, yes.
So technically, it could be. It's in the clay pot. Oh, you mean the one made of clay? No, the one with the clay in it. Like, so if you have a steak urn, it's like, it's not an urn made of steak. It's just a pot in which you put all your steak in.
That would be weird.
I mean, yeah, it's just a weird quirk, I suppose, of your understanding that you know which way round that is meant.
Oh, yeah. So I guess it's like you have to understand that the word pot usually means it's made of some kind of ceramic.
Made of ceramics, yeah. Or something inedible in this instance.
Which is why your coin jar implies that it's a glass jar, probably.
Yeah, I suppose you don't really get jars made of...
I mean, jars can be made
clay.
of ceramic, I guess. But it's more common for glass.
Jar. Yeah, they're more pots or...
They're more like pots.
They're just more pots. Pots that you normally associate with like earthenware, right? As opposed to the word jar.
Yeah. What, that jug? That's probably...
a jug is variable, yeah. That could be glass.
Could it? I mean, it could, literally, but I mean, is that what you would most associate with? Or more, or somewhat associated with?
Or you're thinking like plastic or something like that? Like,
plastic.
Would you get? Well, a pitcher, like that's probably like some terrible plastic, right? Like you know when you order a pitcher of woo woo from Wetherspoons.
But does pitcher count as a distinct thing, or is that just an American word for jug?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, what is the etymology of a pitcher?
Oh no, we've got to this point in the podcast.
Yep.
But luckily,
is it etymology time right at the end?
Etymology corner.
1 minute to go.
Yes, maybe Dan, do you want to talk about a thing that you've been playing? Because you have been playing at least one thing.
Why? What's that?
A thing we made a video about.
Oh, what? Disco Elysium?
Yeah, that was our ending segue.
I guess. I guess so. Well, you can see all of that because that's up on YouTube now.
It is.
Yeah, so check that out, and we'll see if we'll actually return to that. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll find out.
I think that video watches better than it felt to make.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I was watching back being like, this made more sense than I remember. Yeah, I'd agree. I think it was quite fun, and it sort of works. I was a bit worried that but it's all voiced, isn't it? I mean, sorry, it's all the voicing is extra. It's all subtitles, that was the key thing.
That was what director's cut, wasn't it? The voice acting. It wasn't there before. That was all added later.
But we can talk over it all, no problem, and it's all good.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like that was mildly interesting.
I mean, the fact that I've got audio ducking over the voice track should make it relatively.
Oh, nice work.
I mean, we've had that for a while, but in the video production, that should make it at least audible when we're not talking, and not too distracting when we are talking. That's the idea. Anyway, I can tweak that as we go, but I think I got the balance right here. But it was.
I think it made for a fun video. Anyway,
yeah, so it's a weird one. I don't know if we've ever been in that situation before where it watches better than the process of making it. It was an interesting one.
Maybe. Yeah.
It was definitely. I was enjoying the editing process. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Which I actually had to do more of because we've got technical problems in the pipeline again. But that's.
Oh, really? Was that to do with the way that we recorded it?
No, it's
okay.
No, I've got. It's a local problem where when I export the audio recordings from our stuff, they come back at a different rate than they're supposed to.
Okay.
It doesn't always happen, but when it does happen, it's a pain.
It messes it up.
Yeah,
okay.
It means I have to do syncing nonsense.
Cool. Yeah. Well, there's that. So check that out on our YouTube channel. And among other.
The next video after that will be the DRG season 3 because obviously we had to make a video about that too.
Yeah, my schedule got in the way of us doing more Disco Elysium, honestly. So it was,
no problem. No, so we've got some DRG season 3 for you guys to check out.
You can check out the plague with your eyes.
The litho plague.
Eye plague.
No, so check those out on youtube.com. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Saladcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll catch you then. Goodbye.